Arizona became the latest state to work toward enforcing a near total ban on abortion. The state's attorney general is making the case why the state has the right to return to a law from 1864. This as Kentucky just won a case to keep abortion bans in place. Here's NTD's Melina Wisecup with the details.
Arizona could soon be the latest state to ban abortion as early as conception under a law that was first written in the 19th century, before Arizona was officially granted statehood. If the court rules conservatively, the state's abortion laws will be even more extensive than the 15-week ban on abortion recently signed into law by Governor Ducey. Is it surprising at all that a state like Arizona, which has such a mixed base of voters politics-wise, is working towards imposing restrictions on abortions?
Well, what we've seen consistently in Arizona, regardless of who they're sending to Washington, is that the legislature and the governor is strongly pro-life. Over and over, they passed pro-life bills, including this year, where they passed a 15-week law, just in case that's all the Supreme Court did. And they said if the Supreme Court only upholds Mississippi's 15-week law, we want to protect children as much as we can. And that might be 15 weeks. But now that we know that states can protect life throughout pregnancy from that earliest moment, that's what Arizonans want to do.
Pima County Superior Court Judge Kelly Johnson was expected to hear arguments today from both Planned Parenthood attorneys and the state's Attorney General Mark Brnovich.
One of my dearest friends is actually from Arizona, and she's been a pro-life advocate for over 15 years. And she is like millions of Americans and people who live in Arizona who want protection for preborn children in the womb.
The action in Arizona comes after earlier this week, Kentucky won a lawsuit brought by Planned Parenthood. Now most abortions in Kentucky are illegal. And in Georgia, a judge this week allowed a heartbeat law to remain in effect, as a lawsuit that challenges the abortion restriction makes its way through the courts. Right now, there are 12 states that have banned nearly all abortions, although this number changes by the day.
So there are a few states like Indiana that came in for a special session. I think there are a few more states we expect will probably enact life-affirming laws in January. And then there are a few like South Carolina, West Virginia, that are thinking about coming into a special session, may pass a law this fall.
While many in America have pushed the message that abortion restrictions are outdated, some pro-life advocates tell us they believe the majority of people still cherish traditional values.
And sometimes those values are looked down upon, sometimes they're mocked in Hollywood, and it can be easy for people to think that they don't matter. But for millions of Americans, they really do matter. They're foundational values and they're traditional values, and they really are at the core of who we are as a society, and they are very important to who we are as human beings.
It's expected that 5 more states are on the way towards passing abortion restrictions in the months ahead. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Wisecup, NTD News.
Minnesota Congresswoman Michelle Fischbach says overturning Roe v. Wade was monumental. She says the fight is not over and it's just the beginning to change hearts and minds. We had a chance to speak with her recently.
Congresswoman Michelle Fischbach, thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. It's a great day at CPAC.
What is the state of the situation on abortion right now, if you will?
I will tell you, the overturning of Roe versus Wade was monumental. It is something that we have worked for and prayed for 50 years, but the fight's not over, because we still need to change hearts and minds. And the pro-abortionists are going nuts, and they are doing whatever they can to make sure that abortion is legal up until the moment of birth. But on the federal level, we're taking a look at some things because, one of the pro-life things that we have been doing for many, many years is supporting women and their babies. And so that is something that we are looking at on the federal level, that we're putting together a support life package in essence to help those women, making sure they have an informed consent so that they know what's going to happen during an abortion, so that they understand what the procedure is about. So making sure they have that information and can make a decision. Making sure that places like crisis pregnancy centers have the kind of money to support women and their babies and help them and show them the options that are there. Show them that there are other things than abortion. Pro-abortionists say you know what, the answer to everything is have an abortion. We're saying there are other options. We want to make sure that you have that. In addition to that, there's another part of the Supporting Women agenda that would be making sure that they have access to all of the information they need with the internet. We can make sure that they understand there are resources out there for them, whether it be housing or help that they can get. Instead of treating it as a crisis pregnancy, making sure that they understand that we're there to help them through that.
It's a very interesting point. I grew up in a very blue state of Massachusetts where you never even heard of another option in terms of these crisis pregnancy centers. Is there an ability for them to be funded?
Well, you know, we've done it on the state level in various states where we are providing grants to those crisis pregnancy centers, because right now so much money goes to the pro-abortionists, government money goes to the pro-abortionists, and so many of those crisis pregnancy centers have been doing everything from the donations of wonderful people. And so we should be able to help them and make sure that women can understand their options, that they have the kinds of funds they need to do the good work they're doing, which is helping women through the pregnancy, but in addition to that, helping them with once the baby is born, making sure they have diapers, making sure they have the crib that they need. So that is something that I think that we can do on a federal level, and a lot of the states are doing some of it, but making sure that we are supporting women during their pregnancy and after birth.
Now, I just want to ask you about your bill. It's called the Supporting Life Agenda, and it includes a parent notification system for any minor seeking an abortion. Can you explain that?
Well, and basically what it would require was that if there is a minor who is seeking an abortion, that a parent be notified before that abortion takes place. It's one parent, it's notification. I know there's a variety, you know, there's parental consent and things like that, but I think what we're looking at on the federal level that I'd like to see is just that notification. And see, remember, on the federal level, states can go beyond. So if we do a 12-week ban, states can go beyond that and ban it just like Indiana did, or they can go to parental consent. But I think on the federal level, we need to be thinking about what's the minimum standard. And one of the other things is we want to save every baby we can. I want to save every baby. I want to ban abortion tomorrow, but I know that's not the political reality of it. And so we have to make sure that we are presenting that legislation that we can pass, that we can save more babies with every day. And that's why I say, you know, the theme of changing hearts and minds, that's where we've got to be too, is we've got to continue that fight and making sure people understand the humanity of the unborn child and that it really is a life. And so we will continue to make those steps. I said at the beginning, you know, overturning Roe versus Wade was monumental, but it's the beginning. But it's the beginning for us to change those hearts and minds.
Congresswoman Michelle Fischbach, thank you.
Thank you very much.
The Senate's top Republican, Mitch McConnell, says the GOP may not win the Senate in November. What's he saying, and how are key races looking? NTD's Iris Tao has more.
Less than 100 days from the midterm election, the Senate Minority Leader says Republicans may not win Senate control as many were expecting.
There's probably a greater likelihood the House splits than the Senate. Senate races are just different. They're statewide. But I think when all is said and done this fall, we're likely to have an extremely close Senate. Either our side up slightly or their side up slightly.
Republicans are in a historically favorable political environment to reclaim the majority. That's as inflation soars and Biden's approval rating struggles around just 40%. But while the House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy sounds confident,
so we'll win the majority and I'll be Speaker, yes.
McConnell says the Senate race could go either way, adding,
Candidate quality has a lot to do with the outcome.
McConnell on Thursday did not name any candidates, but several key Senate races are looking tight. In Pennsylvania, the Cook Political Report on Thursday changed its rating from toss-up to lean Democrat, as Republican Mehmet Oz struggles in polls against Democrats John Fetterman. And in Ohio, GOP candidate J.D. Vance leads Democrat Tim Ryan just by 3 points in the latest poll. That said, some Republicans have expressed confidence about a GOP majority in both chambers.
Is bizarre just how out of touch the socialist Democrats are, and it's why I think come November, we're going to see Republicans retake both houses of Congress.
That's as a new poll finds more Republicans now want to vote in November after last week's FBI raid of former President Donald Trump's home. Iris Tao, NTD News.
Only 13% of Americans believe that the Democrats' Inflation Reduction Act will help lower inflation across the country. This is according to a new poll from The Economist. President Biden signed the action into law on Tuesday, and Democratic lawmakers claim that it will help to lower health care and energy costs for millions of Americans. Among 1,500 U.S. adults polled, 38% say they believe the Inflation Reduction Act will increase inflation, while 22% say that they think it will have no impact. Only 13% say they believe it will decrease inflation, and 26% say they are not sure. Many prominent economists and Democrats, including Senator Bernie Sanders, have all said that the bill will have little to no impact on inflation. Apple says it found serious security vulnerabilities affecting some of its products. The company released an emergency security update and said that hackers could take control of several of their iPhone, iPad, and other Mac products. Apple released 2 security reports about the issue on Wednesday. They initially did not receive wide attention outside of tech publications. According to Apple, the vulnerability means a hacker could get full administrative access to the device. Tech experts say that means a hacker can impersonate the device's owner and then run any software in the owner's name. Commercial spyware companies are known for identifying and taking advantage of such flaws and even surveilling their targets in real time. D.C. schools are waiving many of their COVID-19 policies in light of a new one. All staff and students are being asked to show proof of a negative COVID test on the first day of school. D.C. schools will give out free tests for students to take before the first day. The D.C. public school system also announced that schools will no longer have daily COVID screenings for students. They're asking parents to watch for symptoms before sending their kids to school each day. Another major change from last year is that students and school staff will only need to quarantine if they have symptoms of COVID-19. Those without symptoms or who have only been exposed to someone with COVID will no longer need to quarantine. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser announced on Thursday a one-time $1,000 grant to families receiving welfare to help them prepare for the school year. The mayor's office said that 15,000 families are enrolled in the Temporary Assistance Program.
That's going to help you get ready with new uniforms, right? Haircuts, supplies, shoes, hairdos.
The money will be drawn from a pandemic relief fund created by Congress in 2021 as part of the American Rescue Plan. Such payments have triggered criticism for their usage amid decades-high inflation. A number of states are also slated to send out stimulus payments in the coming weeks.